they want both. But, so just, I think it's, they're talking about wide angle or something. Yes, please, thank you. Okay. Good morning, everyone. Wow, what a difference from yesterday's weather. Oh, man. So I hope you enjoyed it. I'm going to get started. I'm always one about let's start on time, get you out on time. And we'll do a check-in during the day as well to see how you're doing. I'm Dr. Jane Takahashi, and thank you all for sharing a Sunday. Like, wow, that's a big ask. Thank you so much. And very grateful to ESAV for inviting me back. Those who don't know me, just a bit of a short, brief background. I'm a veterinarian, was a companion animal vet for about 14 years in Calgary as well as Vancouver. Then I went into industry. I did a business degree afterwards and went into industry. So some of you know me from, anybody know anybody about Waltham diets? Oh my God. Oh, good to see you guys. I recognize, thanks for being here. Waltham, Medi-Cal, Royal Kinnan, yeah. And then I really, during those visits to practices, I watched my colleagues, my coworkers, in terms of how they struggle sometimes with communication with colleagues as well as clients. So I became very passionate about working on the communication side of things, which is for the last 20 years, 25 years is what I've been doing, is going into practices and doing workshops on communication skills to make your day hopefully a little smoother. The medicine's okay, we get that. It's the people, right? It's the people side. Okay, so let's get started. Again, Jody May Brown did a huge amount of work to get us all here today, so I really thank her for that. But I really do thank each of you for choosing to be here today as well. Our education partners are always critical. It doesn't happen without our sponsorship, so do stop by to say thanks to them as well, please, during the day. My intention is to make these things very practical, things that you can use tomorrow and take home with you. I have one session this afternoon that is all about the exercises you can take home and do with your clinics, the things that you can actually teach them some of these skills, okay? So that was my intention. I'm always about telling you, what does your day look like? What are we going to cover? Just so you know, and maybe you want to pop into the other sessions, and maybe there's some here that not as relevant for you, just to give you a bit of an outline for it as well. So we're going to start with which animal is you, which is the social styles and understanding your style as well as the style of your colleagues. So it will help you understand clients, for sure, for sure. So we'll start with that. Then the must-have communication skills. There are 4 skills that I think if you can polish those, you'll go a long ways to all your interactions. Then we're going to talk about the value. You know, when clients say to you, you only care about the money. What do we do with that, and how do we present value? Then we're going to go into a little bit of team stuff, and that's setting the culture and making your place a safe place to work, and also dealing with behaviors and attitudes that you're not really happy with. How do you cope with that? How do you have conversations about that? And that's where we're going to say bringing it home. That's the session where I'm going to have lots of exercises and tips for you to go back and say, try this with your team to show them the skills that we're going to talk about today. And the final thing today is if you're leaders in your practice, which, you don't have to have a title to be a leader. So if you are in a leadership role, you're just getting into a management role, or you're a practice manager, owner, whatever, team lead, that's really about leadership, the basic principles that I find helpful as a leader. So that's where we're going to go today. All right? So that gives you a sense of what your day looks like, and then you can flip between the different sessions that are happening today as well. So let's start with, which animal are you? All right? Okay. Challenging conversations. Do you ever have a situation where you're with a person and you just can't click with them? It doesn't work. It just doesn't work, whether it be a client or a coworker. And sometimes there's some, difficult people that we have a challenge with. And you just prefer, let's just walk away, like, I don't even want to deal with this. I'm hoping this particular session is going to give you some tips on how to understand the other person, what they're looking for, and how they want the information delivered. Okay, so that's the whole skill about this with challenging conversations. So also be aware, I don't really like the term difficult clients, because you might view a client as being difficult, and then a colleague of yours goes, no, I don't find them difficult at all. The client hasn't changed. It's who's addressing them has changed. So maybe your styles don't match. So coach your team. You know what, if this particular person I don't quite understand or I don't click with, but don't label the people as difficult. I kind of find that something we have to watch for. So as I say, your interpretation of a conversation is shaped by the way you view things, okay, and your experiences. Okay, now, social styles is just one of a psychometric instrument that helps us understand and work with others through an appreciation of their basic decision making and the kind of information they want. How many have done like Myers-Briggs, colors, DISC personality things? Yeah, there's a whole bunch out there, right? I wanted to give you a tool that doesn't require someone to have to fill out a survey. Like, could you fill this out so I know how to speak to you, right? It just doesn't work that way. So we need to give you ways to look and listen to a person to say, I think this is what they're after, and this is how they want it delivered. That's why I chose this particular model. And today what you're going to find out is your own style. So within this room, we're going to find out the different styles in the room, just to see, you know, the challenges and strengths that we have. And then you might get some insight as to the people you're working with. Oh, and the other thing is who you're living with, right? It's kind of fun to do this afternoon. Oh, now I get it. Why we have differences or similarities with who your significant others are, or family members, or friends. Communication is with everybody. It's not just work we're talking about. So you can apply every one of these things in every interaction that you have. But we're going to focus on your team and clients. Okay? All right. So there's some basic things, just human nature, that we all do. We all assume that everyone thinks like I do. Like, gosh, why don't you get it? Like, it's so clear, right? We all assume that you're thinking the way I am. Not happening, okay? Now, the other thing is every person, and if anyone's been to any of my other sessions before, I always say, what do you want to do for a person? Every person needs to be huad. And they go, what? All right, you need to be huad, heard, understood, and acknowledged or appreciated. If you can do that with every person, they will move with you. Do you really hear me? Do you understand what I'm saying? And can you say it back in a way that I know that you get what I'm meaning? That's the goal of communication, hua. Okay? So that's where we're going to go. So this is called social styles or behavior styles. It is what I really believe is when people are not comfortable paying the invoice, I think a lot of the time it's not about the medicine. It's because they think they're getting ripped off because they didn't get the information they wanted in the way they preferred. And it's psychological comfort. They walk out of your practice thinking, okay, I understand why they're charging this. I understand the benefits of it to my pet, and I'm okay with this. I may or may not be able to afford it. That's a different story. But they're not just grabbing money for the sake of grabbing money. They understand truly what you're recommending in the best interest of the pet. So it's psychological comfort. I really believe that that's what people want to pay for. And part of that psychological comfort comes from understanding who you're speaking to. Okay? So that's where we're going to go. And like I say, there's all kinds of assessments. This is not a personality test. This is about a model that focuses on the outer behavior of people, so you can pick up on what they want. It's the you that's on display. And it uses two parameters that we're going to measure or assess in a person. Okay? So, not a personality test. It's not about who you are. It's about what you do and how you do it. Okay? By the way, proceedings are really quite thorough. The proceedings I have for you, they're pretty much everything that's going to be in what I present. So relax, just relax, don't panic, don't write down. Just you might want to flag some key points that you want to go back to refer to. So just really take it easy today and absorb it, all right? All right. The way I want to do this is I want to know the styles in the room. We're just going to just casually kind of find that out. Because I want you to understand why you have strengths, what your strengths are because of your social style. But believe it or not, we all actually frustrate others. Can you believe that? We actually frustrate others? What? So we're going to find out how others like, oh man, they're frustrating, right? So we're going to look at that. And then we're going to say, what are the styles that frustrate you? Why do you get, there might be one client and you deal with them, man, you're drained. You're absolutely drained dealing with that one client. Whereas another person goes, hey, they were great. So we're going to find out what are the styles that frustrate you and how do you flex your style to match the others. Okay? Now, I want you to know that every style can be successful. There isn't a good or a bad or a right or wrong. It just is. All right, so there's not a better or worse. And every style can be successful in every situation. Okay, so let's start talking. The two parameters of social styles is what is the focus? What is the information you like to deal with? And then it's about your decision making. How quickly or slowly do you like to make your decisions? And what control do you like to have during that conversation? That's what we're going to assess. Okay, so let's start then with focus. Are you a person that tends to be very detailed, task-focused, like the checklists, like to prefer reading a lot of detailed information? Not good or bad, it just is. Or are you one that deals more with people, how people are feeling, the emotions, that sort of thing? So just by a gentle show of hands, how many feel that, let's say if you're shopping for a car, how many need to go through a lot of the data? I need to know the stats, the miles per hour. See, I don't even know what to ask about a car. So, so all the technical, you need to do the research. You need to compare models. You need to know all the stuff. How many here would prefer to do that? Yep, proudly, come on. Okay, how many go, yeah, I've heard this is a good one. My friend told me that, yeah, I like this. And you just talk to friends about it. So, yeah. And it's not good or bad, it just is. But recognize what's in the room. We have two different ones. So those who are very detailed, can you understand how quickly someone can go in and just look at the car and talk to friends and say, yeah, we'll get that? Can you believe that? They go, how could you do that? And they go, well, why would you waste all your time doing all the details? I'll just talk to my friends and find out. There's the difference. Clients are the same. Some want a lot of detail. Some just want to talk about how it's going to make a difference for their pet. And just generally, tell me what's going on. You're boring me with the details. Or the other say, you're ripping me off because you're not telling me what's going on here. You're just all about the money. You hear the difference? So that's one of the first things, is what is your focus? Task, detail, people. Second one is, now, how many here would, in buying that car, could walk in and buy it tomorrow? Or, within the week. Have no problem. Yeah. How many are good? What? Well, you got to think about this. It's got to take me some months and weeks. How many are there? Yeah. Very different, right? Yeah. Same with clients. Do I do the dental today? I'm pushing for it today. Yeah, okay, we can do it. And others, wait, I got to think about this, and you're forcing me into this. I'm not comfortable with that. Okay? So that's the difference. Beautiful. Okay. So are you fast, quick decision making? Those tend to be more telling. You don't ask a lot. You've got in your mind what you want to do, and you go for it. Others tend to be very cautious. I need time. I need to think about this. Don't push me into it. And I'm going to ask a lot of questions. Okay? So what that does is now we're going to have an understanding between people, how they want to process and receive information. And the more that you can identify your style and theirs, you'll see the gap between and how to bridge that gap. Okay, so we did the car example. I'm not going to go through this part of it. Okay, so that's why it sets up this kind of a grid. Here are those who are task, data, facts. Here are the people. Then we have quick decision making, deliberate. It sets up 4 different quadrants, okay? And again, everyone has his or own preferred style at work, and you might be a different one at home. Now you have all 4 styles in you, just so you know. You have all 4, which is why you can tap into them. But think about when you're really stressed out, super stressed out. That's when your most strong style is going to come forward. You're going to get really, really deliberate and go, make quick decisions, or you're going to get kind of, I'm getting a bit tense because I don't have time to think about it, right? So think about stress situations where you tend to go, okay? Yeah. So what I'm going to present now is very simplified. It's just, picking the most common examples of what the behaviors are. Know that you have bits and pieces of all, but it'll give you some idea. And I have a nice chart in your proceedings that covers all of this. So don't panic because there's a lot of information, but it'll just say, here's the style, here's the do's, the don'ts, here's what they prefer, here's what they don't prefer. It's all in your proceedings, okay? So it's okay. So let's find out, are you fin, fur, or feathers? All right? Okay, here we go. So people who tend to want to do a lot of detail work, they need the data. I need to have conversations about pros and cons, okay? And again, you are very deliberate. You tend to take your time, want to analyze, and so you do a lot of asking questions, okay? That would be called what we call the analytical or the methodical. I simply put animals to it because I think it's easier to remember. So I call them the owls, okay? How many in the room feel that that might be them, that, yeah, I need time to think, and I really like, I need to be accurate, I need to make sure the answers are right, so I need to analyze. And yeah, typically in the veterinary world, we have a lot, right? Not good or bad, it just is. Okay, now we have the same person, another individual who again still is task. I still need pros and cons, factual discussions, but I can make a decision like now. Like let's just move on. Time is of the essence. We're wasting time. I need to move on, right? How many, that I would call the lion. How many feel that they might be the lion? Good. Good. And within this room, I know we're going to get all four styles, and that's a good thing. In your practice, you probably have all four styles, and that's a good thing. Now we're going to move to people focused. So it's more about, I can talk to people about how they're feeling. The word feeling doesn't give you an icky feeling, right? I talk about emotions. I can express my emotions. I worry about how the relationships are between people. That is my concern. I'm more general kind of big picture thinking. Now, now how many are there, but they still need time. Don't push me. I still like a method. I like to know what I'm walking into. I kind of like stability. How many, that would be retrievers. There we go. Yeah, good. And then we still have those who are people focused, but again, very quick and responsive. Like, okay, let's move on. Like this is taking too much time, but I want a whole bunch of people to do this together. Let's have a good time. Okay, that would be our dolphins. Yeah, and they're the ones who go, yeah, that's me. Yeah, awesome. We have all four in this room, and that's where we want to go. Okay, so it's not good or bad, it just is. All right, so let's now take each style and just see where we are. Okay, so with the owls, very deliberate, they want to review all information, and it's like just the facts. They feel emotion, but they don't really want to talk about expressing it, right? They are emotional people. It's just that let's just stay to the points of the discussion, okay? Now, they tend to be perfectionists. Accuracy is really important to you. Quality, detail-oriented, pros and cons. I need time, procedures. Now, one of the things that might be a weakness for you is sometimes you can appear to be negative only because your eye goes to where things might go off the rails. And you're simply picking it out because you don't want the team to fail. So you say, okay, that's good, but we should watch for this. And it's in good intention because you want to do the best always. But it sometimes comes across as, oh, being so negative, right? So it just to be aware of that. That's that. And others who know that you're an owl should recognize they're not being negative, they're just wanting to do the best for us to succeed in the best way possible. And see, this is the importance of a team being aware of everyone's style because you'll give each other grace when someone is appearing negative, but you understand why. Does that make sense? Okay, so again, cautious and can appear negative. You're motivated by very high standards, right? And doing things correctly, details, analyzing. You love it. Spreadsheets, give me more, right? I love those things, right? That sort of thing. Now, your favorite question, why are we doing this? Like, why are we doing this? Why are we happening? Okay? An extreme example would be Mr. Spock. Okay? All right, so why are you lucky to have owls on your team? What do they bring? They're planners, standards, accuracy. That'd be a good thing in medicine, right? They want everyone to succeed at a high level. Now, owls, why and how might you frustrate, how might you frustrate others? All right, enough already. Like, let's just move on. A decision has to be made. Well, that's self-awareness. To be aware that, you know, sometimes that much is enough information. Questions? Yeah, absolutely. Come on. We've got to do better. Like, this is obvious. We need to do it. Yeah, it's frustrating. So that's the styles that frustrate you are those who seem to be very quick and aren't giving enough time to the process, or you're being asked to do things too quickly, right? Yeah, good self-recognition. So there's strengths and there are ways that we frustrate others, okay? Now, let's learn now just to identify how will I know if a person's standing in front of me if they're an owl, okay? So let's talk about how we identify it in somebody else. So you're going to watch, we're going to watch for the person's focus and their pace. So let's start with the focus first. Remember, they're detailed. So if I'm asking a client, maybe it's Missy and Missy has been vomiting for a few weeks, and you start asking, so tell me a little bit about Missy's vomiting. What might a detailed person, how might they respond? They got the journal. And not to be facetious about it, that's good. Thank you for, and you acknowledge, thank you for being so thorough and accurate. But yes, Tuesday they did this, and it was after supper. They're very detailed, right? So you know that. How might a person who is, again, more the people or bigger picture, how might they respond? Tell me a bit about Missy's vomiting. Yeah, it's been going on a while, and oh my gosh, the mess in the house, and it's really, yeah, it's a bigger picture kind of storytelling. What I want you to take away from that is people tend to prefer receiving information in the same way they just gave it to you. So listen to them. When you ask a question, were they giving you detail, or were they giving you more the bigger picture and how they feel about it and how the, that relational, that's how they want the information back. So you need to give the same information to people, but you have to twist how it might be. So let's say you have to do some x-rays, we'd like to do some blood work. How might you explain that to a detailed person? What might that sound like? Yeah. Yeah. And it is part of, exactly. So, this is what we're going to do, and this is for the benefit of everybody to find out why Missy is vomiting, but we're going to have to say very specifically, we're going to do an x-ray. Are you familiar with an x-ray? An x-ray is this. You're going to have to explain in detail. A blood work, and the panels we're going to do is to check the organ function, right? And this is what we're going to do, right? Owls, you tell me, what would you like to hear, owls? A lot of detail, right? Now, if I just said to you, we're going to do some tests, and we're going to get back to you. What are you thinking? Nope, not happy. And I'm walking out the door unhappy. Unhappy clients think you're ripping them off. Make sense? So now, the bigger picture person, if I go to, let's go to those who are more bigger picture, how do you feel if I go into a long list with you? This is a blood test, and we're looking for this. The liver does this. The kidneys do this. How are we doing with that? No. Right? Just tell me, what does this mean? We're going to make sure that we're finding out whether there's an obstruction or whatever, so we have to look at the intestines through an x-ray. We're going to do some blood tests to see how the organs are functioning. From there, we're going to find out the story of why. Is that okay in terms of, see how general it is compared to detailed. Okay? So this is why it's important to know, who are you talking to? Same with your colleagues, right? Okay, good. So now how about pace? We've got those who are quick decision makers and those who are quicker to make, quick or deliberate. Okay? So what do deliberate people who are taking their time before they answer, what kind of things do you hear when I ask the question? Tell me a little bit about Missy's vomiting. What might you see or hear? They're thinking about their answers, they're deliberating, they want to be accurate. Just what you hear now, the pause. They're thinking. And what do we tend to do? Well, is she vomiting after? You jump right in there and try and fill that space. And they're just trying to think of an answer that's accurate. So we're going to talk about the power of the pause. Really important that you pause after you ask a question. And they will also do things like, well, let's see, let me think about that. They'll actually say, let me think about that. You know that you've got someone who's really carefully going through it. Or they will, it was Wednesday. They're very careful. Whereas another person who's quicker about it, they'll just start answering quite quickly. Okay? Right? So that's kind of a rough guideline. Now, if you don't really know the style, you can't really detect it, what might you ask? What could you do to get to what they want? Anybody? Lovely. Would you like me? And what I would do is, let's open that question up versus yes or no, because they might say, yes, and how much more? A little bit. So I'm sharing a lot of information. Would you like, how much more detail would you like? Or you could just do a yes, no. Would you like more, or would you like less? Is this, you can just ask, is this helpful, or is this too much or too little? You can just ask. Okay? Yeah, good. So again, quick decisions are fast talking, fast moving. Deliberate, they take longer to make decisions. They're cautious with their answers. They pause a lot. They're thinking. Okay? Good. All right. So now let's go back to the owl, and let's say you're explaining the treatment plan and explanation for the owls. I think we kind of went through that. Again, they're task-focused and they're deliberate. So again, be prepared and organized. You should be like that with everybody. But they want detailed information and data, very clear and precise. They want the pros and cons of things, typically. Okay? And they will go to brochures, references, websites. Typically, you can give them that information. They're interested in that information. They're not interested in being your best buddy. They're there for a purpose. Right? So yes, you're polite and you're warm and you're friendly, but you don't have to be chit-chatty necessarily, right? And don't rush them for a decision. They need to digest information. And they don't, most of my clients like this. I don't really care what most of your clients want. I want what's right for my pet, right? That sort of thing as well. What if you have an owl in front of you? Missy is now in critical state, and you need decisions now. You haven't got time. You haven't got time to wait for deliberation and that. How can you address that? I always start from where the client is. What are you causing in the client by pushing? What are you causing? So what can we say to them? It says, I hua you. I hear and I understand what I'm causing in you. What can you say? Could be overwhelming. We could be overwhelming them, yeah. I would say, I am overwhelming you versus putting it on you, right? I always use I statements versus, so great start. I would simply acknowledge that, you know what, I know that I'm pushing you, so what am I doing? I know that I'm really pressing for an answer, and this is not what you prefer. I know you want more time. So, oh yeah, you're getting my world. Does that make sense? You hear me. I want more time. I know that, and I see that. I hua you. But why are you doing it? Why are you pushing them? Right. So explain what you're causing in them, what you're doing, what you're causing in them, and why you're doing it. So Mr. Jones, I know that I'm asking for an immediate decision, and I know you'd love to have more time. I appreciate that this is really uncomfortable to make such a quick decision, an important decision. The only reason I'm asking is this is the best opportunity to have a positive outcome for Missy, is getting an answer now. She's in critical state. We need to act quickly. Okay? So that's kind of how you address those discomforts. Questions? Okay. Anytime, just throw your hand up. It's a nice small group, so we can do lots of discussions. Okay. All right. Now let's move to our lions. Okay, and lions, correct me if this is not sitting well with you, or you'd like to add something. Okay. So now we have people who now are very task-focused, but they're much quicker. All right. So yeah, I want the facts. I just want to deal with the facts and the thing. But let's efficiency. Let's get through the checklist. Come on. We've got things to do today, right? And tongue in cheek. Be bold. Be brief. Be gone. Okay. Like let's get moving here. All right. So again, observables. They take charge. They're very future focused, time focused as well. Efficiency is important. Confident. A conflict is not a big deal. Conflict is simply the word conflict causes a lot of people to go, don't like that, right? It's simply we have a difference in opinion, a difference in perspectives. Just think of conflict as, hey, we have a difference. It's going to happen, right? In this room, we're going to have lots of differences. So let's see how we can. Now, with a lion, yeah, you can come and talk to me about, hey, you know what, I'm not sure I agree with this. And, okay, tell me more. Factually, I'm okay with that. Good. We can agree to disagree, or we can agree to agree. So, good. And they're done. They're fine with that. They don't take it home. I don't know if there are lines in there. We'll talk about that in a moment. They make decisions. They like crisis and trouble. They're managing trouble. They can appear to be impatient because they're always quick with their decisions and they don't use a lot of words. So could we talk about, yes. And, the retrievers down here going, oh, they don't like me, right? Because they would like to hear, well, we can talk about it a little later. I know it's important to you. But a lion is so focused on their task, they're not going to go there. It's yes, no, right? So very short. Those are the clients that your reception team have the most trouble with, because receptions tend to be a lot of people-focused people, right? And so when they hear someone being abrupt, they think they're rude and unfriendly. You have to coach them that this is simply a style difference. Yes, there are some who are rude for other reasons, but sometimes it's a style. They just want to get down to business, so just get to business, okay? So again, can appear restless, and they are competitive as well. They love to solve problems. They love efficiency, getting results. That's their thing. Moving ahead. Action, variety, and give me lots of variety. I get bored easily. I need lots of challenges. I need things, okay, something new. And their biggest question is, okay, what's next? What are we doing? Lions in the room? Yay or nay? Is that spot on? Yay? Okay, all right. So, again, extreme example. Sorry, I'm just extreme example. Sorry. Okay. Now, why are you very lucky to have lions on your team? What do they bring? Yeah? Or future focus as well, like stable, and they're moving you forward. Like, we're not staying here today. We got things to do. We could be better, better, better. Why else? Sorry? Anything else? Lions? Would you want to add anything? Exactly. There's a lion. Stuff gets done. Exactly. Yeah. Right? Now, again, let's go back here. Challenges, and you might have to coach a lion. So what would be lions? How do you frustrate others? Sorry? Anyone? Yeah, they can be abrupt. Exactly. Not with any bad intention. They're very focused on a task, and they're abrupt and short with their answers. Right? So the coaching might be, hey, for the whole team, is if once you know who your lions are, say, you know that when they're focused, that's not the time to go and ask a question, unless it's an absolute emergency. Because you're only going to get yes, no, later, whatever, right? So only, again, and the lions, can you use a few more words? Say, hey, I hear you, I'm busy right now, but let's set up a time later. Like, even just a few words would help versus no. Okay? Okay. But yeah, lions, what other tips? Anything else that would be helpful for you? They're hard to read. Yeah, yeah. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, and the people, that's the thing, and they're upset with me. And they're not, right? But again, the nice thing too is you can have a conversation with them, have an issue, a big issue, could be a huge one, and it's done, resolved. Lions, do you take it home? No, it's good. We've done it, resolved, done, over. Retrievers, you take it home. So Teflon are my lions, Velcro are the retrievers. You take it, it sticks with you, and you take it home. So that's the strength of a lion. They can deal with crises. They're very good in that situation. And deal, gone, do, next. So that's a strength. Okay? So if you had a lion then, the treatment plan for the lion, right? They're task focused, but they're quick. They want it down to business, but they need all the facts as well, right? So again, get to the point quickly. Don't waste their time, right? That's a big one. Be clear, be specific. Stick to the business. Again, you don't have to build a personal relationship, right? They're in to get a job done. Prepared with facts and bring solutions. Don't always just, dump stuff at their door. You need to bring some solutions to work with them as well. If you have lions in your team, keep them challenged. They want new things. If you want to keep them as part of your team, they're looking for new challenges. The conversations in your performance reviews are, what else should we be doing? What else can we be doing? All right? If you have a client who is a lion, they want control over decision making. So sometimes, if it's possible, and you can offer options, say, listen, we could do this, this, or this. You can give them control, but with it a defined frame, right? To give them some control over that, if it's possible. Agree or disagree with the facts, not the person. But this is where you need to really coach your front team. This is a style. And just get down to business. They're not here to be your best buddy. It's okay, right? Okay. Other comments or questions or about lions? Make sense? Okay. Now we're moving to the people-focused group. Retrievers, again, they're going to be careful decision makers, prefer to take their time, but it's all about sociable people, how relationships are going. Okay? So, what you tend to see is they're very organized and methodical. They're good at follow-through because they want to make sure everything is done. They're patient. They tend to be quite low-key, even-keeled, right? Have very good people radar. They kind of get a sense of the team. They kind of know whether the team's up or down. They do not like retrievers. Do you like conflict? Ooh, just saying the word. Don't like conflict. Okay, and that's okay. That's okay. All right. They expect loyalty, and if you breach the loyalty of a retriever, you've got a little bit of a slow road to come back to get their trust again. Okay, loyalty is very big for them, right? Now, one of the challenges with retrievers is sometimes you have trouble saying no when people ask you to do something for them. And your plate's overflowing already, but you'll still say yes, right? So protect yourself. That's both personally and professionally. And what I'm going to say is reframe it. You're saying no to the task. You're not saying no to the person. And you ultimately always want to do a good job, so simply say to the person, hey, you know what, I would love to help you, and right now, if I added that to us, I won't be able to do a good job for you. So can we look at maybe doing it later, or can I find another person to help you? So if you find some comfort in being able to explain it that way, but saying no is very difficult for you. And you say yes, and then you add all this stuff, and then you get resentful afterwards. But you're the one that said yes and added to it. Does that sound familiar to anybody? Yeah. And it just is. It's just something we have to learn. Okay? So it's okay to be aware of that. All right. So you're motivated by having a very stable environment. Consistency is nice. You like to know what you're walking into. You like to make sure the team is doing well, right? And following through is very good, and you get along. People tend to come to you. You just naturally draw people to you in that people radar. Okay? And your favorite question is, how can we do this so that everyone is doing okay with it? All right? Extreme example might have been her in her early days. She stood up later, but I think early on she was saying yes to a lot of things. So why are you lucky to have retrievers on your team? What do they bring? They unify them, for sure. They're looking after the team. Their stability, right? Loyalty, absolutely. Yeah, there's a definite, consistent loyalty. Yeah. Now, how might a retriever frustrate the team? Exactly. Never say no. And sometimes decision making is hard because you want to keep everybody happy. And so you kind of go, well, but I don't know. So it's hard to commit sometimes, right? So work from principles, and we'll talk about values this afternoon, is the principles. Work from a principle and say, well, what's best for the team is always this, and I'm making decisions based on this so you have less struggle with keeping everyone happy, and you have a sound reasoning for why you're doing it. It'll make you sleep better at night. Okay? Yeah. Good, good, good. And coaching, if you have retrievers, is to that no, coaching on the script of what to say no to a task, not the person. Okay, so protect yourselves on that. So if you had a treatment plan, you had to give it to retrievers, again, they're people that's more the bigger picture, how this is going to affect their life, what it's doing for their pet generally, and they're deliberate though. Don't push them for decisions right away. They want you to be informal. They want some personal comment. They want some social interaction. Okay? Listen to them, be responsive. Minimize the risks for them. Remember, they like consistency, so you want to say, here's what we're doing for safety, here's what we're doing for making or keeping her safe and getting the best result we can. That's the way you'd phrase it for a retriever as well. Don't rush them into a decision unless you must do it for the patient's sake. Okay? And again, they don't like the abrupt and the vague. They want more words, and that's why the lions and retrievers, it's hard. And that's the one that I have to coach most often, is when I'm bringing those two together to understand each other. Okay? That friendships are important, connection. Focus on what the results will look like, or what the pet's going to look like, and what it's going to mean for the family. That's what they're interested in a treatment plan. Okay? And they need some structure. Here's our plan. Here's what we're going to do next. Here's how the information is going to go. Here's the test that we're going to do. Retrievers, is that yay or nay? Yes? Okay, good. But you start to see the power of if you could figure out clients, and you could figure out coworkers, and the coworkers understand each other's styles, you can see where there's more tolerance for the differences. And when your practice gets super busy, everybody goes to the extreme of their style, and that's where the gap gets bigger. But if everyone's aware that, okay, that's just because of the tension in the room and the style differences, they're more tolerant and give each other grace. Okay? All right, last one. Now, these are, again, people, and they're ready to party now. I can hear it already. Quick decisions. Like, they almost go by intuition. They almost act on intuition versus reading a lot of facts and that sort of thing. And boy, it's energy, people. Let's get people. The more the better. Let's go, right? Very much so. So, high energy, very creative individuals usually. Think outside the box. All right? Dolphins get bored very easily. Like, I need something new. I need to be, if I gave a dolphin a spreadsheet, oh my God, you're killing their soul, right? This is killing them, all right? So they really want to include others. They're outgoing. They get bored very easily. Now, one of the downsides, right, dolphins, sometimes you lose focus. You go, oh, next shiny thing over here. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Okay. Isn't it scary how we can actually, yeah. There you go. Let's talk to her at the break. Exactly, right? All right. But yeah, they get bored easily. But boy, they really have a lot of creativity. But sometimes they will miss details or poor time management. And that's the coaching you have to do if you have dolphins on your team. I had several techs who are dolphins, so we just put in the story, okay, here's your checklist. By noon, you should have these things done, right? So checklists help them because they tend to be just bigger, much bigger picture. But when you've got a new idea and they're all behind it, man, you could not get a better cheerleader or leader, champion for that idea, because huge energy, great creativity, high enthusiasm, right? So may miss details, very fast-paced, very inspirational. Okay? Now, they're motivated by persuading others, having fun, influencing others, right? And they like interactions. Let's go outside the box. Come on, guys, let's think of something new. There's got to be a different way to approach this. Like, all right? Freedom from controls, lots of enthusiasm. And there's, okay, who's in with me? Who's coming, right? That's kind of their attitude. Dolphins, yay or nay? Is that, yeah? Yeah, okay, all right. So, again, extreme example. And I don't know if he is. It's just you know, kind of how he displays. All right, why are you lucky to have dolphins on your team? Yeah, see, there you go. Yes, bringing joy. They bring joy to the team, absolutely. And new ideas, fresh ideas, high energy, positive, right? So you're very lucky. Now, dolphins, how might you frustrate others? God, I love the, good on you. That is so good. Thank you. Nothing's ever completely done. Sometimes. But you can coach them to do that. But yes, that is such a self-awareness. Okay? So that's a coaching. But you got to laugh, right? You go, yeah, okay, but that's, you know, all right. Yeah, so you might have to get them on checklists or focusing on that.
So what if you think you're with your adult?
Yeah.
You can't make decisions and you can't finish?
We have some things to work on. And absolutely, when there is a survey thing that you can do that kind of puts you in these different boxes. And yes, you can be right on the line of two sons. Absolutely. It doesn't mean you're just this. You have all four, remember? At times, you can be any one of these four. It's just that in stress time, you'll probably go to your strongest one. But that's why you can also flex. Okay? So coaching the dolphins. The other thing dolphins you have to be aware of is sometimes your high energy is too much. Owls, sometimes it's too much, right? You kind of go, okay, tone it down, right? So you have to be aware of the reaction you're causing in other people and respect it. Okay, all right. So treatment plan, if you had a dolphin, right, is now, dolphins, are you going to read the brochures we give you? No way, save a tree. Don't bother, right? Exactly. So they want the relationship. They like to socialize. They want to talk. They may not talk just about their pet. They may talk about other things, right, as well. That's okay. Fast-moving, entertaining. They get excited about, they're the ones that will try a new treatment. Yeah, let's go for it. That sounds like a new one. That's the ones that will be interested. Owls might have to think about it a bit. Retrievers will think about it a bit first, too. But, boy, you betcha. You want to try a new treatment on something, it's the dolphin, for sure. Big concepts. Not a lot of facts and details. So when I would do an estimate, let's say, I'm not going to go through every line. I'm going to say, so this portion here is to make sure that Missy is safe. So we're going to do just some blood work and make sure that the anesthetic's safe. This portion deals with the anesthetic that keeps her safe. This is her pain management. So you're going to just kind of chunk out the bigger picture, whereas you might have to detail it for others. They still need to get the information, but it's a little bit different. Okay? Yeah. Ask for their opinion. They want to jump in there. They often are the ones that say, well, what do you think, Doc? What should we do? Right? They might ask you that as well. But again, they like change. They like new challenges, but don't rely on detailed information sheets and brochures. So the discharge notes that you send home, highlight one or two things that are really critical for that patient. Okay? But again, all this is in your notes, so don't panic. It's all in a chart form for you. All right? Questions from dolphins or about dolphins? Can you start thinking about your team and go, oh, yeah, right? This is who they might be in that sense. So you could run through some of this stuff with your team to say, who do we think is what? And we're going to talk about that this afternoon when we talk about how you address the different social styles on your team. Okay? So you have all four dimensions in you. And some of them are, your glass is full of a particular one. But if you deal with a client that is this one, it only takes one client to drain you. That's why you can feel so drained after one client, because probably their style is so much different. You have to flex hard to try and match that. Whereas you could do all day with this one. Okay? And maybe you have a client that is this, and you know what? Someone on the team is better able to dress that. Maybe you should share and say, you know what? You're probably better able to deal with that particular style than I am. So think about it. That's also the same thing when you hire people on your team. It'd be nice to know kind of roughly what style they are, because the tasks that you put them into could be influenced. Are they in the right seat? So again, if you have an owl and you're asking them to do a lot of big picture things, they may not be satisfied, versus someone who's big picture and you're asking them to do very detailed work all the time. We all have to do stuff we're not necessarily happy with. We get that. But the majority of your job should be things that you really excel and like doing. So putting a dolphin on inventory control may not be your best option, right? So, because it's not joyful for them. Their joy belongs elsewhere. They could do much better on other projects, okay? So think about it when you're hiring people as well, where they're going. All right, so again, successful communication means you can determine what that person's looking for and how you want to deliver it to them. And you temporarily just tailor your style a little bit to match them. That takes practice. I need to be more detailed than I'm used to. I need to be more general than I'm used to. I need to slow it down when I like being fast, right? That's a frustrating one. If you're very used to being, lions and dolphins, and you're getting a client who's just detail. You're going, oh man, move it on. That's frustrating. And you're going to have to learn to say, okay, let's capture that information and be patient, because that's what they're paying for, is they want to deliver it in that way, and you need to deliver your information in the same way. Okay? All right. Yeah, when you tailor, it doesn't mean you're conforming to their style. You're just simply temporarily just, providing information that suits their preferences. All right. So the power of recognizing your styles is, boy, you can relate to your clients and your colleagues much better. Okay? You give them tolerance for what they're doing, and you can deliver what they want, and that is a better chance of getting compliance and acceptance. Clients will follow you closer and take your recommendations to heart if you delivered it in the way they wanted it. Okay? Questions on social styles? Good? Okay. Your turn now. I'm just going to put up celebrities. We don't know what they are, but their persona on television or movies is a certain style. If this was your client and you had to present an invoice to them, what would you do? So it's your turn to maybe practice this. And you can do the same thing. This is one of the exercises I'm going to suggest you do with your team. Once they get familiar with the terms of these social styles, is you simply do this. You pick a celebrity and say, okay, what do we think this style is? If they showed up at the reception or they're in your consultation appointment, how would you approach them? And it's good practice. Okay? So we're going to give a discussion of an invoice as your task. And this is who shows up. I don't know how many watch Big Bang Theory anymore. Okay. So, Sheldon Cooper, what is his focus? Yeah, he's definitely, focus is detail, right? And pace, deliberate. I think he thinks a lot. He makes his answers quick. He thinks quickly, but he really deliberates his answers. So yeah, I had him an owl. So if you're doing an invoice, what is that going to sound like? Yeah, pretty much the invoice, you're going to go through it with them. Yeah, because that's kind of what they want. And then decision making. If you can, give them time. Yeah, because pushing them is going to not be comfortable. And it doesn't mean you have to give them dates. You can just say, you know what, I'm just going to go and do a couple of things here. I know you might have to call someone, or I'll give you 10 minutes to just think about what you want to do, or 5 minutes, whatever you want to do. It doesn't mean that you have to put it off for days, but you can just give them time to process. Okay, good, well done. All right, Ellen DeGeneres. What's her focus, people or task? I think people. Is she quick or is she slow? I think she's very fast moving and active, so that I had her down also as a dolphin. So now how will you explain, let's say Missy's going home now, or Missy's the vomiting. Okay, so we've got to explain what we're going to do here. So how's that going to sound for Ellen DeGeneres? Well, you got to put the music on first, the dance music, and you got to, but how might, yeah. So, Missy's, I know you're really worried about Missy because she's vomiting a lot and it's been happening quite a while, so we're going to do some tests to find out what she's doing, and those tests are to take a picture inside to see what's going on, blood tests to see how her organs are working, And then we're going to call you and see where we need to go from there. Ellen, how does that sound to you? What else has you concerned, right? So it's a bigger picture discussion. Okay, good, good. All right, Gordon Ramsay. People or fact? Task. Task? Slow or deliberate? Sorry, slow or quick? Quick, I think so too. I would put him as a lion. And this is the one that, you know, Gordon Ramsay shows up at the reception desk. Let's get the manager. He or she will deal with him. But this is the one that your reception team, how many here are front reception team here? Yes, yeah. And tech assistants, should have done, and vets, practice managers and or owners, all of the above. So we got a good mix. So reception team back there, you're okay. Well, you get clients like this, I'm sure. Oh, perfect. Your name is? Your name is? Tia. We're calling Tia because she knows it. Yeah. So, but as like, if you were there, how would you like the invoice presented to you?
Quick and to the point.
Yep.
Like list off everything that needs to be done, but don't sit there and waste your time.
Thank you. You got it. See, that's the other way you can do is determine who's on your team and say, okay, you are getting this invoice. Have someone practice on them and say, did that meet your needs or not, or what would you have preferred? Because there's nothing like real lions, dolphins, retrievers, and owls telling you, this is what I prefer. Thank you, Tia. That's great. But that's exactly it. To the point, here it is. Be prepared. It's all there. It's written here for you. Here's the plan. Here's the plan. This is what we're doing. We'll see you next week. Poof, done. Business. Right? So this, if you're going to practice one style with your team, I think this is the style to practice with a reception team. Right? Is business-like. Be very, still friendly. They're friendly people. That's what I want to break that myth. Is they always label them as being difficult people and unfriendly. No, we don't talk about that. They're factual and they're quick. They want the business done. So start breaking that language. Okay? Great, 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 great. So again, this is in your notes. Again, it's just owls, do it right or not at all. Lions, let's just do it. Let's get it done. And we're great together as a team. And let's all do it and have fun doing it. Okay? That's kind of how the summary is. All right. Yeah. And again, you need to present all the information, but just consider what and how you're delivering that. We do not label people. We label jars. So I don't want to see lions on client files and dolphins, because this is not what we're doing. Because one day they could be a lion and one day they could be a retriever. So you need to react in the moment. Watch for the reaction you're causing in that person. Recognize it, and then respond accordingly. Okay? Because they will change, just like we will change depending on the situation. So be careful that you don't start labeling. Also, as a team member, you cannot use your style as an excuse for bad behavior. Well, that's just my dolphin coming out today, or that's my owl coming out today. No, you have to be respectful, right? So again, be aware of the reaction that you caused in somebody, particularly a coworker, and own it, and say, that's on me. Apologies, I didn't mean to be so abrupt, or I didn't mean to take so long making decisions, whatever it might be. Your intention was not to be, to do that negative thing. However, you caused an impact, and you have to own the impact. And that's what people have to recognize. You didn't intend to do it, but you did cause something. You have to own what you caused. Okay? So that helps in performance discussions when somebody's having some issues. So, yeah, I know you didn't intend this. However, this is the result that came out. You have to own that result. Okay? So I use that an awful lot. You have to own whatever the bad behavior is or the result of that behavior. Okay. Questions at all? How are we doing? Would this be helpful for you in your practice? Yeah, and I think it's simpler than doing discs or Myers-Briggs, or it's what people show you. Okay? Let's just see here. All right. Good. Are you okay if I move on just to the next one? We might end up a little early for that break. Are you all right with just carrying on to the next one? Okay, awesome. And if we can get out earlier today, we'll try and make that happen. Okay. Now, we talked about the social styles. Now what I'm going to say is let's go right into must-have core communication skills. I think if your team and you can polish these up, you'll get a long ways in terms of any interactions. Because I think, like we say, communication is a clinical skill, just like it is for surgery, any dental procedures, filing, taking x-rays, it doesn't matter. This is a clinical procedure, and the colleges are finally recognizing communication is a clinical skill. Is it technologists in Alberta? Yes. Did you get communication training in school? Yeah. Some did, some didn't. I know. And it's there now. Vets, how many here had communication training in college? You're lucky. Yep. Did not. You went in the room, won't do that again, right? That's how we learned. And this is this procedure that we do every day, all day long. So colleges are now recognizing this is a clinical skill, thank goodness, okay? All right, you don't have to be an introvert, extrovert, all these different styles to be successful. This is a skill that you learn just like anything else. So everybody in this room has the ability to learn these skills. And that's what your team needs. Well, I'm an introvert, so I'm not very good at it. Has nothing to do with it. It's a skill, okay? So that's where we're gonna go. What I want to do is, good communication builds trust. And that's what your clients want, and that's what your team wants, it's trust. Okay, it's huge. All right, so what we're gonna cover now is 4 communication skills, and we're gonna look at it also from a client's perspective, right, what it sounds like, and with your colleagues. You are someone else's client. You walk into a business, you're someone else's client all the time. So think about a positive interaction you had at a business lately. Can you think of or any time, something that stood out for you, a positive interaction? And it's sad, you can come up with all the bad ones. Sometimes you have to think hard about a good one. For anyone here who's had a really good interaction, would you mind sharing what made it positive and memorable for you? What happened there? Anybody? Yes, please. Beautiful. Thank you for sharing. So she was on a trip and checked into a particular hotel. Very individual attention. They knew who they were. They set out, here's the game plan of what's going to happen, delivered the information that you wanted in a way, it was all laid out for you, and very tailored just to you. Hua, you heard what we want and what we needed. Beautiful. Thank you. Anyone else? Yes. It's, if you can even find somebody sometimes. So just generally being acknowledged as soon as you walk in the door in retail of any sort. Hi, how are you, right? Yeah, I agree. Same with your clients, right? Acknowledge as soon as they come in. I didn't hear anything about the hotel, it's a gorgeous room, there's beautiful facilities. Yeah, it probably was. But what stood out for you was the interaction. Not that they had great deals, great sales, whatever, lowest price, it doesn't count. It's about the personal communication. Anyone else? Yeah. Next. Beautiful. Nice. So even the drive-through, it's not a transaction like this. Next, let's get you going, go, versus, hey, how are you? Have a look on personalization, right? Yeah. So again, it's not about you had the best burger or had the best whatever. It's about the communication that we remember. Yeah, that's your clients too. Why are they loyal to your practice? What brings them back? Why do they like going to your practice and recommending it? What do you think? Trust, service, and friendly. How do you make them feel? Absolutely spot on. Yeah, has nothing to do with great x-ray machine, superb. They're assuming your medicine's good. They're assuming, right? They want that level of medicine. All the other stuff on top of that is why they're coming in. Yeah, so what they've actually told us is they trust you, right? They trust that they're doing that. That comes through the communication. They treat the pet well, obviously, right? It keeps me informed. I know what's going on, the information happens. They go above and beyond. They know me and my pet. Sometimes we focus a lot on the pet and we don't acknowledge, especially when we're making recommendations, we forget how our recommendations actually affect the family. We just say, this is what the pet needs, go home and do it. Without saying, so how is this going to work for your family? That's the question we should be working. Because they got to do it, and if it's not going to be fun, it's not going to get done. Right? So they come in pairs, pet and people. You have to address both. Okay? So, yeah, how they judge it, you bet. They have very little experience to judge your medicine. They're just going to assume everyone can do spays, neuters, and surgeries to best abilities, right? Top quality. It is exactly on what they see and experience while they're in the clinic, right? How they feel and think. So, spot on. Yeah. Okay, so perception of value is, this is what they're asking. This is quite commonly done in the studies of people. Do I trust them? Do I like this person? I mean, I know nothing much about car mechanics, and there's a certain person I take my car to only because I trust him, because he explains things to me, and he doesn't dumb it down so much that he thinks I'm a total idiot on it, but I am. But he's really good at just explaining. But I trust him. I know nothing about what's going under the hood, but because he explains it to me, I feel I trust him, and I like him, right? And they're doing this thing, I like your front team, I like your doctor, I like you. Not much for medicine there, right? But that's a big one. Feel comfortable? Do they understand my world, is what they said. And did I receive the information that was relevant? That's what they're looking for. Not about your equipment, your facilities, your medicine necessarily. It's all of these soft skills. The same thing applies to your coworkers, by the way. They want to feel that they're trusted. Do you get my world? It's the same thing. Yeah. Do I like you? I mean, that's, it's more about credibility and trust. Are you reliable? Can I depend on you? Right? Okay. So, hua. Always goes back to hua. All right. So what we need to do is, how do we discover what a person is looking for when they're coming into a practice, right? And so that's where we got to get curious. Ask questions. I'm going to encourage you all to ask more questions, because you're going to find out a lot more, all right? So open-ended questions are important. And what are open-ended questions? Yeah, you can't answer it with a yes or no, okay? Because what you want to do is you want to get their perspective and you want to get their story. And while they're answering that, you're listening. Fact, detail, or bigger picture. You're listening to what they're looking for. So get them start talking. Open-ended questions are critical. All right. The other thing is, people tend to want to empty out what they have to say before they're willing to take more information in. So it's a good chance for them to dump, and what would be a nice open-ended question at the very beginning to determine what they're in for. What do you say? Love it. Tell me what's happening with Missy today, right? And you're going to get a story. Sometimes you get a really big story. How do we curb really long, stories? What do you do? Because that is, people say, I don't want to ask an open-ended question because that client, there's no way I'll ask that person an open-ended question because I'll be there all day. Yeah, what are your main concerns? Let's hua them. Okay, so how do we hua? Let's say they say, oh, she's doing well, because we were away in Hawaii, and that's why she's got but the Hawaii was really great, and they're off on a tangent. So how do we bring it back? How do we hua? I want to make sure, how do I know that you heard me, first of all? So what can you do first? How do you know you heard my story, what I was telling you? Lovely. Yeah. You want to acknowledge. Lovely. Man, that skill. Come on and do this. But it is a skill. Even though it has nothing to do with where you want to go, they want you to acknowledge what you just said. Wow, that sounds like an amazing trip you had. Wow, that's fantastic. I've never been to Hawaii. And so was Missy vomiting when you got back? I mean, what a beautiful segue back to that, right? But they do want, if you ignore that, keep ignoring it, I'm not feeling heard. I'm not feeling hua, like they were just down to business and they're all about the money, right? And it's a simple thing like that. So practice. So open-ended questions, you bet. You have to be careful that they want to empty out before they're going to hear what you have to say. And that you've heard this, you need to first understand and then be understood. And they want to be part of the discussion, right? And again, you're going to have those who are very factual into business and those who are storytellers. You're going to have the whole range. All right. Now, the other reason you want them to talk about things and you want to ask open-ended questions, people take actions based on their needs, not ours. Case in point, had a Cushing's dog. And you know, Cushing's dogs, for those may not be familiar with the reception team, endocrine disease, affects multi-systems, but typically what you see in them is you get thin hair coat, poor hair coat, thin skin, sometimes they're pot-bellied, drinking a lot, peeing a lot, all kinds of things. So I'm talking to the clients, the pair of them, and explaining that we need to do some tests on Cushing's, and this is what we're going to do, and they weren't coming along, they didn't seem to be interested. When I get to that point, I often ask the question, so tell me, this is a disease I think that Missy has, and I'd like to do a test to confirm that. If that's correct, and we treat this disease and she gets better, what is the biggest change that you would love to see in Missy? Because I want to know what's important to them. I'm thinking, man, we've got to do something. There's all these body systems that are falling apart, but I need to know what is important to the client. So tell me, what's the biggest change you want to see with successful treatment of this? So what do you think they might have said? Peeing? That's what I thought. That's what I thought, was peeing around the house. Sorry, hair coat. Because they take Missy for a walk, and everyone goes, oh my God, what's wrong with her? It's embarrassing for them. So until I knew what was important to them and tailored my recommendation to match that, it was not relevant for them. So I said, oh, I can totally understand. That must be really hard to hear every time you take her for a walk. Hua, right? And that's one of the changes I'd love to change with this successful treatment of this condition. Bingo, right? So that's the importance of finding out what is the definition of success from a client's perspective, and you only get that with open-ended questions. Make sense? Yeah? But that was a big eye-opener for me. I said, oh, okay. So people take action based on their reasons, not what I think is important, what they think, whether it's relevant or not. If they think it's important, that's what they want to go for, right? Okay. And that's where you have to add, open-ended questions. What problem, situation, or concern are you solving for the pet owner? That should be your goal. What am I solving for the pet owner with every consultation? Okay? All right. So open-ended could be a statement. It doesn't have to be a question. Tell me more about, right? What happened next? Go on. Tell me more, right? What thoughts? How did you? Now, why? I'm a little bit, so tell me why you did that. How does that sound? Tell me why. Yeah, accusatory, judgmental. So I tend not to use why. That's just a personal thing. Okay? It is open-ended, but yeah. Okay. This is where I say, you've asked the question, pause. Don't jump in. So here's 3 seconds. Yeah! The dolphins are going, oh, can't do this. Yeah, and the lions too. Come on, just answer me, right? Yeah, it's long. However, you've got retrievers and owls who are deliberately thinking. And so if I said, so tell me a bit about, what is Missy eating? Tell me about her diet. And you don't give me, is it canned? Is it dry? Don't we just jump right in there? Right away. Pause. 3 seconds. Because they're thinking, okay. I mean, this is their health of their pet they're worried about. And they want to get the right answer. And if after 3 seconds there's nothing, so then you can prompt. But learn to get comfortable with the pause, because you might be overrunning the thoughts of those who are deliberate thinkers. And eventually, if you keep doing that, they give up. And they say, one, they're unhappy. I'm not being heard. They won't let me speak. I'm frustrated. And they start not feeling good about this visit. Make sense? Get comfortable with the pause. And it's not comfortable, I understand. Okay, all right. So listen to full reply also without interrupting. How many of us are in the habit of ending someone else's sentences? Yeah, it can be annoying. So I have to, wait, I have a habit of doing that too, and I'm trying to really curb it, because that's not giving them the chance to say their full bit. We're just saying, I'm listening, and I'm actually helping, and I'm filling it in for you. But it's frustrating for the speaker. Like, will you stop doing that, right? Polite, respectful is just let them finish without interrupting. Okay. All right. Pauses are very powerful because it's a sign of respect, and it gives space for the other person to give thoughtful responses. It also allows you time for any emotional reaction. Maybe they've said something to you, and you get that emotional, right? I want to say something, right? Pause. Pause is going to be your friend. We're going to talk about that in conflict conversations. Pause. Because you have an emotional hit first, And don't speak when you're feeling a lot of emotion. Let that subside, and then you can be rational again. Okay, this is particularly with significant others, family, friends, co-workers. Pause. Okay, let it wash over, and then go. So that's another reason to pause. And also, if you said something that's really important, pause. It emphasizes the point to the client. So it's going to be critical that we don't let him walk on this leg for whatever number of days. And then you can go on. But that really will emphasize a point for you as well. Okay? All right. Some of my favorite open-ended questions are, again, ask the client about their previous experience with a condition. You know, diabetes is a common one. And I'll just say, so tell me, how familiar are you with diabetes, with family or another pet? Because it's a common disease, and they might know. And you can't assume that when they say yes, they know it all. You can't assume that, but you can maybe start doing a little different level of conversation. I particularly want to know if they've had a diabetic pet before. And how did that go for you? Because maybe they're saying no this time because the last one went so badly. So you want to find out what experience have they had prior to this with the same condition. What's important? Yeah, I do that a lot too, is if I'm not sure where they're going or I'll just say, tell me, what's the most important thing you need to know right now? Especially in emergency situations, there's a lot happening. Say, what's the most important information you need right now? What's pressing, what's front of mind for you right now? And just get it out there. Because as long as they're thinking of something like that and you're not addressing it, that's all they're thinking about, they're not listening to you anyways. So get it out there. Okay? And then we talked about that. Be clear in the definition of success from a client's perspective. Okay. Here's a closed-ended question. Do you have any questions? Right? And why might a client be reluctant to say, yes, I have questions? Yeah, sounds like you're trying to wrap it up and just, okay, it sounds like, this time. I'm sorry? Yes, judgmental. Yeah, that we're judging that. You should know this. Like, I'm afraid to admit I don't know something. And that, we're running out of time, so I better not open up more conversations because it sounds like the doctor's done with me, right? What else? Yeah. It's judgmental most of the time, and I'm afraid to admit I don't know something, right? So how can we open this up? What's an open-ended question? Lovely. Yeah. What other questions? Because it's assuming you have more. What other questions do you have for me? Much more open, right? So again, listen to your team. Listen to your team and how they are doing that. And sometimes it's very helpful. I go and observe reception teams, and I will go in consultations with the veterinarians and give them feedback. But you can do that yourselves. Listen for how we end those questions. Do you have any questions? Let's change at least that one thing. What other questions do you have? Because this is so common. Okay? Are you okay with the home care instructions? How can we open that up? No, I'm good. Isn't it hard? It's very hard. Thank you for doing it. But it is very challenging to open it up. I totally get that. Absolutely. How can we open this up? What would be an alternative? Are you okay with the home care instructions? Lovely. And yeah, let's talk about that. And what quick, because I'll just wait for you to add more. Let's talk about home care. And I might just wait for you to, so what would be a fault? That's a good place to start. And you're trying to get me to speak about something. Yeah. Yeah. What pieces of this would be easier or a challenge for you? Yeah. So what, and I would just say, how does this look for you at home? How will this work for you at home? Who will be responsible to do this? What help do you have at home? Anything to get them just starting, anything. Yeah. Okay? So it's very difficult sometimes to open these up, but for this one, I'd really try and do that too to get them talking. But I am curious to say, so how will this fit into your family's schedule at home? Right? Would be a good option as well. So make it okay for them to ask more information because it's for their pet's health's sake, right? We need to make sure it's going to get done at home. And if there's a way that we can help work through the family. So whatever you recommend is affecting the pet, and it has to be done by family. So ask about both. Okay? All right. Now, there is a place for closed-ended questions. You do want closed-ended questions. And those who have done any kind of communication, you'll recognize this technique for sure. You want to clarify information or get specific facts, for sure. And so it's called the funnel technique, right? So you start with open-ended, general open. So tell me about Missy's vomiting. Get the story, you paraphrase it back to them. And then you get specific. So how often does this occur? It's still open, but it's getting more specific. And then if you want real specific, is it always after she eats? That's a very specific. So you start broad, and then you can narrow it down. So there are places for closed-ended questions. I'm not saying they're bad. Yes, please.
How do you deal with people that when it's closed-ended, they still keep going? Like,
With closed-ended?
yeah, like you're looking for yes or no, but then they're like, well, sometimes it says,
Yeah.
say this, and then, well, I don't know, could be this, and then they're still like
Yes.
super vague.
Yeah. And you might have to summarize it and say, it sounds like, right? Sounds like it's really hard to determine, and we don't really know what's happening there. And you might have to just summarize it that way and get that point, right? And say, okay, so we're not really clear when it's happening. That's okay. It's hard to determine. So what I did there is I summarized, I paraphrased, who'd them, and then I gave empathy. Say, hey, it's difficult to know this sometimes, right? Yeah. So that's what I do. Summarize what they're saying, and you might have to be satisfied that they don't have an answer. They can answer that. And that's also a bit of information. Good question, really good question. Okay? When is it, what other question, or when is a time you really do want a yes or a no? Yeah. Will you leave the cone on? I love it. Yeah. Yes, please. Yeah. That's a very good one. When else? When would you want a clear yes or no? Consent. Do you want us to proceed with specific, not the treatment, say with a culture, sensitivity, and blood work? Because what they define as treatment might be different from what you're, so be very specific of what you're asking them to consent to. But that's when you want a clear yes or no. Okay? Questions so far? How about questions? All right. That's the first skill, open-ended inquiry. You get a lot of stories, and you can determine the kind of information they're looking for. Okay? Now, active listening without judgment, very hard to do. Don't you already, you hear something, and you're already saying, oh, no, or oh, yes. You're already saying yes or no to something. Very hard to do. Okay, reflective, active listening, what is that? What is paraphrasing, or what is active listening? Yeah, exactly. Summarizing what they say to you to clarify, understand. Notice the pause I gave you there? Did not run in and jump in? Okay, thank you for that. Okay, yeah, stating back in your own words, right? The content and the feelings sometimes behind the client's message. That's all it is, okay? It shows respect. It's that part of hua, hearing, understanding, and acknowledging. And it's a chance for you to say something and get clarification if you misunderstood something. They'll correct you and say, no, 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 that's not what I meant. So it's a good chance to do that. It is, I find listening is the most difficult skill to accomplish. The most difficult skill. We will speak at about 125 to 150 words a minute. Do we listen faster or slower than that? How many say we listen slower? How many say we listen faster? Majority say slower. Upper hand up there is correct. Tia? We listen way faster. Way faster. And that's why you have so much time to think about saying things in your mind while they're speaking. Because you could take it so, oh no, they're so wrong, that's not going to happen. Right? That's why it's so hard to stop and listen without getting your mind going. Because you can listen to so much more. Make sense? Interesting, right? So, do you ever think of what you're going to say while the other person's speaking? Oh yeah, all the time. Preoccupied with how much you disagree with them while they're speaking. Right? You listen to only what you want to hear, and you've already come to the conclusion already, or you already have the diagnosis in your head right already, right? Sometimes that's okay, because we've seen them a lot, but yeah, very hard. So a good listener is actually going to listen without the distraction of your own thoughts. Man, that's hard to do. So what I'm going to say to you is, while you're listening, look at the person. Look at the person. Consciously listen, but look at their face and say, is that matching what they're saying? Okay? Because what do you believe more? What you see or what you hear? What you see, for sure. So if you find your mind is wandering, say, look at the person. Just watch them. Practice that, see what you can do. Okay, let others finish without interruption. We talked about that. Ask questions. If you halfway through and you don't quite know, just say, I have one question. Sorry to interrupt. I have one question here because I need to get clarification. Ask for clarification. Okay, a good listener is going to do that during that. Be in the moment, not distracted, and remain open-minded and ready to change your mind with more information. Okay? Yeah, and pay attention to the nonverbal signs because they could be telling you way more. So if I kind of said, yeah, it's really great to be here. I'm really happy that we're going to have a fun day today. So yeah, we're going to talk about a lot of things. And I never looked at you. Like, I turn around, you'd all be gone. Right? So watch what they're doing while they're speaking. Okay? So reflective listening is, you're paraphrasing back. So some people will use it. So you're saying that, or it sounds like you're wondering if this surgery is high risk or low risk. I hear you're saying, those are kind of stems of, reflective listening, if you want to use them. You don't have to do that. Sometimes people find it easier to say, sounds like you sound, or you're feeling this way, or you look upset, or you look concerned, or you look anxious, whatever. This is a bit risky because you're actually trying to make a judgment call on what it is they're feeling, sounding, and looking like. So I tend not to do that so much. I say, it sounds to me like, or I'm hearing this. It's all on me. It's not on them. Okay? Options. Now, if you were the client, how would you feel? Let's say you've got Missy's vomiting, and you've just painted the house, and you're pretty sure it's the fumes from the paint that are making her nauseous. Okay? And I've just gone through a whole bunch of other reasons for it, and I haven't even mentioned that it could be the fumes from the paint. Haven't even put that on the differential list. How are you feeling about that? Yeah. Yep. Exactly. You're not even considering. You dismiss me, and so okay, come on, and so I recommend a bunch of tests, and you're just thinking, well, it's just the fumes. I'm sure it's just the fumes, but you haven't even talked about that. You think it's all this other stuff. Or when I make a recommendation, you're going to go, why? Why would I do all that blood work and I think it's just the paint fumes, right? So I would say, put the paint fumes on that differential. Say, you know what? I'm going to add that to our list to see if that's a possibility. Yeah, thank you for raising that. Hooah, right? And I'm also concerned that there might be, I'm feeling something that it shouldn't be, or I'm worried about something else. So the blood tests are going to help us to decide, is it, maybe she's having a reaction to the paint fumes, she's doing this. Then you're more open-minded to my recommendation. But if you've never even mentioned what you thought, you're probably doubting what I'm recommending. So it's important to really hooah their perspective. Even if you think, way off, I can feel a mass in there, right? But you don't go there. Okay? Does that make sense? You want them to be heard, hooah'd, all right? And I want you to practice hearing what you see. And this is a skill also. So when you're listening to what the words are, you need to also look at their body to see what they're telling you. So if you're getting distracted, remind yourself, okay, what am I seeing here? And what I mean is, we do it all the time with animals, right? Good thing we read body language, because it's, for sure, a little worrisome, right? I'm not going too quickly there. So we automatically do this with animals. You now start doing it with your clients. Start watching the body language. Closely linked to reflective listening is observing nonverbal facial and body language. Okay? So I'm going to put an image up here. If this person was actually saying something to me, what do you think he or she is actually saying, but they're just simply showing in their face? What would she be saying? Frustrated. Anything else? Annoyed. Or I don't, skeptical maybe, whatever. So if she had said, I'm really frustrated, or I'm really annoyed, or I don't think this is right, if she said any of those, would you just simply carry on and just carry on the conversation? Well, that's what you're doing when you ignore this. She feels it so strongly, she thinks she said it. And you are not even acknowledging it. and you're carrying on. So we're going to do these blood tests, and she's doing all this looking, and no wonder she doesn't want to come along with you at the end of it, right? What can you say in this situation? What might you say to her? What are you sensing? And if you don't want to call it a specific emotion, you could say, this is surprising me, or I'm sensing that you're upset with what I've said, or you're not happy with what I've said. You don't have to say, I think that you're not believing what I'm saying, I think you're frustrated with me. If you're not, you can just say, I'm really sensing that this is not sitting well with you. I use that a lot. It's not sitting well with you. Tell me, what are your thoughts right now? That's where I went. I don't use what you're feeling, because feeling isn't always a word that people are comfortable with. Like, I don't want to tell you I'm feeling. But thinking seems to be safer. What are your thoughts? What are you thinking right now? Right? Does that feel comfortable for you to say something like that? But I would go there. I would look. So that's why you have to listen to the words, empty your own thoughts, and start observing. What is she showing you? And I think you got why you do it already, but you choose not to go there. Let's just carry on. Okay? How about this one? Huh? Like what? So what might he be saying if he said it in words? I'm confused. I have no idea what you're talking about. I have no idea what you're talking about. So what might you say to hua him? Yeah. Yeah. Thank you. And so two things that nicely done, I did something, not you, it's not your fault. I am giving you a lot of information and then asking the question. And the only tweak I'd put on that is, let's open up. Did you want me to explain anything? How would you open that up instead of a yes, no? Because he's feeling so over, said, no, I'm done. Lovely. What can I clarify for you? Right? And so I name what you see there. I would name it. I'd say, wow, I know. Let me back up here. I've given you so much information. I think I've really overwhelmed you. I apologize. What can I do to, what do you think, what's important to you right now? Whatever you want to do there. But I would kind of like name it. Yeah. Okay, how about this one? What might the emotion be there? Are you kidding me? Like, are you kidding me? So what might you say there? It's a little bit challenging. Let's say this is the second change of diet, hypersensitivity diet, you're going to ask them to go through a trial with. They just did 12 weeks or 4 months of a specific diet, and now you want to try another. And he's going, are you kidding me? What might you say? And he's just doing this. He's not even saying that. Hua. What are you seeing? Yeah, and you are trying to help. I would always replace but with and. But tends to negate things, but very nice. I understand this is frustrating for you, and I'm trying to help your pet. But yeah, exactly. So yeah, and I might have said, I know this is a huge ask. And go back and say, what has he done to? You've just been. What is my world? How do you really understand my world? You've just been through 4 months of a very strict diet, and you stayed to it, and I know that was not easy, and now I'm asking you to do it again. So boy, does that really sound like you get my world, versus saying just the emotion. So the more that you can build and give them their story back, the more powerful it is. Okay? So I understand. That's exactly right. I understand how frustrating it is. And then why? Why is that frustrating? I know what you just went through and what I'm asking you to do. Yeah, he may or may not still want to do it, but at least he gets, okay, you're not just making this recommendation without considering my world. Okay? It just adds another layer to it. Good. You're very good at these. You immediately go there. You automatically do it. I'm just asking you to expand, look at it. But you do these brilliantly. Oh my gosh, I know this is a really difficult decision. I'm sorry your family's going through this. This is so hard. Right? You just go there right away. So now, it's these ones. Okay? So that's part of your active listening. If a person is uncomfortable, he or she stops listening. So what are signs of a person not being comfortable? What do they do when they start in the consultation? What do they start physically doing? Yep, they fidget a lot. Lose eye contact. Yep, sometimes they do this. I've had one lady, she was home, you could see her actually raising the dog. It's almost like defending. Yeah, you know the signs. So when you see that, don't ignore it. As long as that person's uncomfortable, they stop listening to you anyways. So you need to be mindful of the reaction you cause in people. If you sense a change or discomfort, pause and check in. So if you think I'm starting to get uncomfortable with things, what might you say to me? I'm not looking anymore and I'm kind of, what would you say? And it doesn't have to be a question. I'd say, this is a lot of information. Tell me, where are you at right now? What are you thinking? I often just said that. What are your thoughts? What are you thinking? It's a lot. Or you might, that's why, if you have other questions, say, feel free to offer them up. But that's just my go-to all the time. And it's a tone that you take, right, with that as a, so tell me what you're thinking, right? You have to approach it with some compassion there. Okay? So find what's comfortable. But these are little exercises and scenarios that you can do with your clients, with your team, vets in particular, to practice these things with your colleagues, right? Pull these faces up and say, oh God, what would I say? Reception team, what would I say if a client was showing you this, right? So really good exercises to do. Your own body language is very important. We know about smile, open expression. And I know that people often say this is closed, but you have to combine it with the face and everything else, because it's just comfortable. I'm comfortable standing this way. Yeah, exactly. So it's not like I'm not happy, so don't read too much into this unless you read the whole body language. I mean, if I'm not looking at you and I'm doing this for sure. But, smiling and pleasant, or I'm cold, right, or whatever. So I'm kind of always watching for the crossed arm is not a huge signal for anything, but smiling, obviously, for sure. Eye contact's very important. But is everybody comfortable with eye contact? Including ourselves. Sometimes we're not. Neither are your clients. So if you're not comfortable with eye contact, it's still important to try, but to try and ease your discomfort, the tip that I usually use is look at the person between the brow. They cannot tell the difference. So I'm doing that to you all right now. Does it look like I'm looking at your eyes? Yeah. So it's easier for me because I'm looking at your forehead. Right here. Okay? So if you're uncomfortable, try that. What are the signs of somebody who is uncomfortable with eye contact? What signs do you read that, oh, this is not good, they don't like me making eye contact? What do? Yeah, they look away, they sometimes turn their body. So what do you do? Wear them down. Look at me! Look at me! Exactly. Besides that tactic, what do? Mirror them. Yeah, you can. Yep. Stop looking at them, for one. Yeah, and you can start, again, averting your eye, but you have other things to look at. The pet might be there. Focus that. You have a file. Look up once in a while, but just don't hold the stare. Don't hold the look. So you've got lots of ways to distract, right? Yeah. Sorry? Yeah, exactly. It's called proxemics, so you're going to give them more space. And I was going to say also, if you have a client who's staring you down or approaching you too much, what do? Because that's also a concern, right? So it's about creating barriers. One is you stop making eye contact. You can start looking also. Sometimes if a person's approaching you, particularly socially, sometimes you just sort of lean back a little bit. Hope you have a drink in your hand, and you can put that up there. But in the room, you've got a file. You've got a consultation table. You have a reception table. So you use that instead of being... if someone's really approaching too much, you can just slip behind the consultation table or pick up a file, whatever. I tried, there's a consultation table, and the pet owner's there and I'm here. Coming to the end seems comfortable. If I come to the same side, it freaks them out. This is not where you're supposed to be. But being on the end seems to be okay. So I've tried all kinds of things. But yeah, so just thinking about that as well. So eye contact is important though, but there are many cultures it is not appropriate. And so be respectful that you're watching the body language, and if that's the case, then just start averting your eyes to the patient, your file, whatever. Okay? Posture is important, to be attentive in the moment versus, sort of slouched at the table. Can I help you? Right? You're kind of, so be in the moment. There are also nervous gestures that we might be doing that you don't know. You're clicking the pen, right? It's a common one I see a lot. Rocking on heels it is what it is, but be mindful. Sometimes that doesn't impart a lot of confidence. Twirling hair, whatever it might be, but just be cautious of gestures. So if you have a safe space in your work environment, and you feel that you could give feedback to somebody, that they might be doing something that is giving clients a little bit less of a confident air, you might want to mention that to them, okay? But again, people believe the nonverbal more than the words spoken, so be very mindful of your own body language. So we've covered open-ended questions, reflective listening, and now it's empathy statements, okay, which is huge for the HUA, for sure. Empathy is the ability to view a problem or situation from another person's perspective, right? And then you understand it, and then you express your understanding back to them. So it's not a matter of just understanding, you've got to say it back to them, okay? And it's very powerful. So it's also just acknowledging the way a person is feeling and why they are feeling that way. It doesn't mean that you're agreeing with them or that it's right or wrong. You're just saying, this is what you're doing, and it's because of these reasons you're feeling that. That's what empathy is. It is not about how you would feel in the same situation. It's not labeling the emotion and judging the person. And it's not taking the emotions on of other people. That is not empathy. You don't have to wear those emotions. You're simply saying, I see you're this, and I understand because of this situation. That's what empathy is, okay? I think empathy is often confused with compassion fatigue, that you're taking on emotions. That is not empathy, okay? So they really want, do you get my life? Do you really get my life? Do you get my world? As we talked about with this fellow who had to change diets again. Do you really understand why I'm frustrated? Yeah, you're frustrated because of that. But I don't have to be frustrated with you, and I don't have to share that frustration, right? Okay, so you acknowledge the emotion, and then you link it to some specific facts about their situation, the medical situation of the pet. That's what it is. You've got to add more to it. So let's say we have Chloe. Chloe is a cat that's been going through chemotherapy for a long period of time. The owners have been amazing, bringing Chloe in for regular blood tests, ongoing tests, all through the last 8 months, and doing brilliantly. Now Chloe is really struggling, and the family's struggling with the decision to euthanize or not. So again, you might say, I can see how difficult it is to make this decision for you. This is really a tough time. That's fine. How could we deepen that empathy statement? What could we add to that to make it say, I really get your world? Yeah, brilliant. So you can start, I can see how difficult this decision is for you. You and Chloe have been through so much together. You've been so good to carry on and give her as much as 8 months already. And now you're wondering. It's hard to know whether this is the right time to say goodbye, right? Yeah. So just providing intensive care for so long, it's different if today is the right time for the decision. So just add to the story. Because you could be saying this line to anybody, to all situations. But for Chloe's situation, this is why. That's all it is. That's all empathy is. Describing how you understand their situation. Okay? Questions on empathy? Now, what if little Toby here has chronic scratching, hypersensitivity, atopy, we're not sure, we're going to try a food trial. And it'd be nice to know that this is the family situation. So how are you going to get to discover this from this? Because how is it going to work to have a food trial with all this going on? Yeah. So how are you going to find this out? Yeah. Yes, they could be there. And that's going to give you a cue right now. If those children are already in the consultation, okay, we need to have a conversation about this. Absolutely. So that might be the... She came alone. Somehow she managed to escape for a few hours. Nice. Let's open that up. Is it? I like to say yes or no. But that's exactly where you want to go. So how do we open that question up? No. Yes or no? Can you? right? It's hard, isn't it? It's very hard to, this is exactly the exercise. It's so hard to open it up. What else could we ask? Thank you. Can you tell me a bit about your typical day? Or maybe you've said, we're going to have to put Toby, to find out this food out, to put her on a very strict diet and knowing what she eats or what he eats. How is that going to work with your family to know and restrict that diet, right? How will it work? And she said, well, I got toddlers and infants, so it's going to be, but exactly. So you need to ask some questions. Remember, the key is we have Toby's problem, and we could just merely just say, here's what we should do. Put them on this diet, no treats, no things, and off they go. But we need to consider who's attached to Toby. They come in pairs, people and pets. Now ask about how is your recommendation going to affect the family, okay? And yes, yeah, yeah, that's right, and that's okay. You need to know that. And sometimes there isn't a solution, right? Yeah, yeah. Maybe the pet has to be in a different home. Be very honest, I've had that situation. Yeah. So, hang on. Let's ask the question to say, here's the situation. Toby is scratching a lot. We suspect it's a food allergy. It sounds like it's going to be a struggle. Could we restrict the area that Toby's in, and then when the kids are eating and family's eating, we could put it in. So you do lots of other options first, right? I've had this situation that we've tried, Toby's still in desperate, and I said, so what thoughts have you had? And said, you know what, maybe Toby's not for us. And I said, that's something that you have to consider for Toby's sake. So they came up with that. I'm not suggesting you do that, but that's sometimes where it has to go. Yeah, but, yes. Yeah, no, absolutely. I hear your point. But what you need to do is give them solutions and ask them, how do you think we can make this work? We need to have absolute surety that he isn't eating well, so what can we do? But yeah, sometimes the situation is one that you can't solve, so you have to admit, sometimes there isn't a solution in that family. But yeah, that ultimately has to come from them. And sometimes you cannot solve every problem, is what I'm saying. These are nice questions and everything's good and everything, we'd love it all to work out. Sometimes it doesn't, but the questions take you there, right? Thank you for raising that point. Brilliant point. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. So we need to discover what happens in the family. In practice, acknowledge the impact, pet and pet owner, okay? I rarely see that happen when I'm in consultation appointments and watching. I have to tell you, it doesn't happen very often where they actually ask the family how it's going to work for them. So I wonder sometimes how the failure rate is because we didn't provide the support that the family needed to get there, okay? Okay, so those are the first 3 skills. There are 71. Just so you know, I personally think these are the top 3, and I will do one final one after this. This is the book that the veterinary students use. Absolutely, it has all the skills in there. So that's one that you can consider, for sure. But again, sorry? And it's in your reference. Oh, sorry, and it's in your references, too. I put it in your proceedings as well. Absolutely, I put it in your proceedings. Yeah, for sure. I think I also listed a second one that just came out before I had done this by Jane Shaw and Jason Coe out of OVC. It's far more practical. This is quite academic, I will tell you that. It is quite academic, but it lists the skills for you. The second one that just came out, and I just wish I could remember the name, I will look it up and tell you after the break, is the one that is just came out earlier this year, I think. So, and it's a bit more practical. Same people, same kind of OVC. Cindy Adams is OVC, and Jason Coe is currently at OVC. Jane Shaw's Colorado State, and I've worked with them, and they are brilliant at what they do. So I'll get the name for you after the break. Yep. And the last core skill I find, which is probably not in their book, but I personally think it's really important, is you need to find the common objective between the pet owner and you so that you're working towards the same recommendation, okay? So typically, the common goal is, well, obviously the well-being of the pet, for sure, but it's also the situation. Maybe it's the pet owner's situation, like peeing around the house is not a fun thing to deal with. So that's the problem you want to solve for the pet owner, as well as the pet's health, right? So you need to find out. For colleagues, oftentimes, patient care for sure, or the client's needs, or the team's needs. So there's a common goal somewhere. Whenever you're having a discussion with somebody, there's a common something you're working towards. So that's why I'd say state how your recommendation goes to the common goal. We're going to talk about that more when we talk about the value, how we present value as well. So let's say we've got a client scenario. We're going to practice our skills here. This is, let's say, too healthy looking for a renal cat, but let's say it's a chronic renal cat, been treated for a couple of years now. And I want to know, it's an ongoing medical condition. If we used our first three skills, so open-ended questions, reflective listening, and empathy, let's go through each of them. How would we assess what the client's thinking right now? With this, it's now 2 years plus of treating with a renal patient. So how will we start the conversation? What's an open-ended question? And I'll be the client. Well, pretty good. Like, I worry that weight loss, and sometimes the appetite's not great, and I just worry he's looking pretty scruffy, which he's not.